Welcome everybody.
Yeah.
Brilliant to see so many people attending today's session. I'm Rebecca Gill, I'm the Executive Director of ROSA, and I am really delighted to be welcoming Jolie Brearley from Pregnant Then Screwed, who will be chairing the session, which is exploring how women's organisations are creating change and looking at the different ways that women and girls sector organisations do that across our country. We would love to hear from the attendees today, so please use the chat box to introduce yourself and to say a bit more about the work of your organisation. And also please use the Q&A box at the bottom to post any questions that you've got for the panellists. And then Jolie will ask those questions in the second half, but obviously we may not have time for all the questions depending on how many we get. And it goes without saying that please be considerate to other attendees in the chat box and in the Q&A. The session is being recorded for public viewing at a later time, so it's not being live streamed. And there will be a short comfort break halfway through, just so you know you can get up and get yourself a cup of tea. So now I'll hand over to Jolie and look forward to hearing your chat and your questions.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that introduction, Rebecca. As Rebecca said, my name is Jolie Brearley. I am the founder of Pregnant Then Screwed, a charity which exists to end the motherhood penalty. We've existed since 2015, a very small charity, but we do lots of work with mothers who don't have equal access to the labour market. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by Sonia Jalal from Hull Sisters, an organisation which promotes the independence and inclusion of all women from all backgrounds in Hull and East Riding. Halale Taheri from the Middle Eastern Women and Society Organisation. They support Middle Eastern, North African and Asian women in London to rebuild their lives. They reject every form of discrimination, inequality and exclusion and inspire to a society where every woman lives in safety with equal opportunities. Emma Campbell from Alliance for Choice. Alliance for Choice believes everyone who needs an abortion should have free, safe and legal access in their own country without stigma. Janet Veach, who wears many hats, but today will be representing the Women's Budget Group, an independent and not-for-profit membership network consisting of women's voluntary organisations, academics and policy experts whose aims are to promote a gender-equal economy. Molyn Delve from Phoebe, an Ipswich-based charity which supports BME women and children suffering from mental health, illness and domestic violence in the UK and Zimbabwe. So before these wonderful women tell us about their experience of campaigning and what they've learned, I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on the chaotic, intense, for some of us, traumatic 18 months we've all had since COVID-19 tore through our communities and threatened to set women's equality back by decades. Many of you watching, and certainly the women on this panel, have been on the front line working at the coalface, supporting women who are experiencing domestic violence, coercive control, poverty, threats to their health and their right to life, threats to bodily autonomy, their safety at work, their mental health and their income. It's been a difficult and challenging year and a half, to say the least, and it's certainly not over yet. But this crisis presents an extraordinary opportunity, as through magnifying the challenges that women face, it has exposed the systemic inequalities experienced by women, particularly disabled women, Black, Asian and ethnic minority women. With the impact of schools and childcare facilities closing still being felt by mothers months later, the government can no longer deny that it is women that do the lion's share of the unpaid labour, the labour that keeps society spinning and the care that is critical to a well-functioning society. With people trapped inside their home and some domestic violence charities seeing a 60% rise in calls to their helpline, the government can no longer pretend that all women are safe in their home. And with an estimated 31% of children living in poverty before the pandemic, and experts predicting that that figure will have increased in the last 18 months, the government can no longer pretend that it's fine for mothers to not have equal access to the labour market. After all, children are not poor by themselves, they're poor because their mothers are poor. So I want to kick things off today with a message of hope. Although things feel pretty bloody awful at the moment for many of us, as women's organisations, we can work together to trigger change, because there's been no better time for us to make those arguments. And I know from my own work that women are livid at the moment. They are furious. They feel completely left behind in the government's planning and completely sidelined, and they're ready to do what it takes to ensure that their voice is listened to. And if we can channel that anger, then it becomes the perfect vehicle for social change. Firstly, I'd like to welcome Sonia Jalal from Hull Sisters. Sonia, could you tell us a bit about your campaigning journey? Where did it start? What steps did you take? And what have you learnt?
So, first of all, I would say that I'll start, like you say, the inequality and discrimination, physical, sexual, and psychological stereotypes of all women begin at their birth. Women face these challenges from the start of their life. The whole global structure is patriarchal, and it's patriarchal societies who decide and make behavior of women in the society. So women always cope to struggle against patriarchal norms, change the structure of society, make it conducive for them to live. Unfortunately, the condition of Black and minoritized women organization like us is not different than the condition of Black and minoritized women in our society, because the whole structure is male dominant and their attitude towards women issues are so insensitive. They want to see women in defined roles. Black and minoritized organizations like us struggling on regular basis to bring or create the condition of changes in society, influence the policy of government for equal rights. I'll limit myself to Black and minoritized women organization, as I am one of the founder of Hull Sister. Hull Sister, dealing with women from all backgrounds, suffering human rights abuses, empower them, make them independent to stand up for their own rights and to take control of their own lives and bodies. The struggle of BAME organization like us is not only for our clients' human rights abuses, the human rights abuses like discrimination, violence, racism, antisocial behavior, they face on daily basis, but also a struggle for ourselves, for our survival and independence. And these two, experiences, they interlinked our client and us in a very beautiful bond. So for example, racism and discrimination our client face from institution or in individual capacity, we're facing that on organizational level. So based on our personal experience, I can say that when you support these victims of women and make them aware of their rights and boost up their confidence and their morale, they surprise you in return. They will not only fight for their own human rights, they will also stand by you side by side in an overall campaign and struggle for equal rights, which they done with us. They've been in forefront of our campaign since October 2020. We've been evicted in October 2020 by our landlord. We've been told that because of pandemic, they cannot accommodate a larger group like us, and that we should consult the Hull City Council for further support. So we had a few meetings with the leader of the council, And we explain our situation to the leader of the council. The leader of the council said that he promised that he will not only support us in accommodation for long term, but he will also provide us funding, and he will ask all the services why they are not treating Black and ethnic minority women organization like us fairly and treating other organizations very fairly. We were very, very happy. We explained that we never received any funding from Hull City Council in the last 10 years. So we were very hopeful. We say we have achieved our goals, but it didn't happen. We received a call next day. We've been told that the building is only available for 4 to 6 months. It is for sale. And soon the private buyer come, we will be asked to leave. So we said, where will we go? What kind of a building it would be? We'll just be in and then out. So anyway, we explained that other organization, newly set up organization, have been given building for free. Why this discrimination is with us? So we've been told that the other organization have strong links with Hull City Council and that we don't have. And if we want to have a building for longer term, we have to pay £30,000 a year to them. We were in a very difficult situation at that time, that if we agree to pay 30,000, it will disrupt all our activities and will badly affect our client groups. And if we refuse and have no building, then it will increase pressure on board members, and all the deliveries, center equipment, food parcel, everything will come to our homes. So it was very hard choice for us we had to make, and we come to hard decision and chose our client first, thought that their needs should be met first. So we shifted everything to our homes to make, which made things very much complicated for us. We started as an outreach service. Our little army of staff and volunteers, they started going door to door to help and support our women service users and their families. Our social media staff was asking donation from public and organization for sanitary items, for food during all this pandemic time.
And you've got a crowdfunder, haven't you, Sonia? You're doing a
yes,
crowdfunder.
We have GoFundMe link. So we started our GoFundMe campaign and ask public to donate us generously so that we buy our own building. That is the only way to become independent.
Yeah.
So in this way, we've been able to overcome some of the miseries of our service users. So we dealt more than 500 women and girls in 5 months, because all of them, they were desperate, for food, for sanitary items, for everything. And there was no support available in the area for Black and minoritized women, particularly. On personal level, 2 of my reception room, kitchen, 1 bedroom occupied by organizational staff on lighter mode. I ordered sofa set for my TV lounge in last September 2020. But there was no space in my reception room to accommodate it. The furniture people kept asking me for delivery, and I've been just making different excuses. And they sold the sofa set to somebody else. But they promised me they'll order some for me once I'm ready for it. Initially, we hired a cafe, and we kept all our food items, sewing machines, printers, everything in the cafe. I'd been vulgar. So the drug user, they stolen all our sewing machines. And so we had to pay £75 to the cafe landlord as well, because for broken window. So we had to move everything to our own homes. So you can see my house is full of stuff.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're going to have to, just because we've only got 5 minutes each to get through everybody, but I'm sure lots of people have questions for you in the second session about what's happened. And thank you very much for that. Halala Tahiri from the Middle Eastern Women and Society Network, if I could come to you now. Can you tell us a bit about your campaigning experience, please?
Thank you, Julie. I had a little presentation, if it's possible that I can show it. Is that okay? Or otherwise, have you got it?
Yes, I'll do that now. Hang on.
Well, actually, while you are doing that, thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to talk. among all those members in this meeting. And it's a good opportunity actually to thank you, Rosa Foundation, for one of our campaign, Polygamy Matters, that the first start, it was actually Rosa Foundation helped us with that. I'm Halal Tahiri, executive and founder of Middle Eastern Women and Society organization. And as Julie presented our organization, we reject all form of discrimination. And then our value is on secularism, on justice, and we wanted to help all women in London. But during COVID-19, I must say that because it was enormous numbers of women who were under pressure, especially migrant women from even out of London, we supported them as well. We have, apart from advice and some legal support and health and well-being workshops and holistic support, we have 4 campaigns that I am interested to introduce it to you. If you go to the second page, please. So we, by the sensitivity of those campaigns, I'm just starting with ban virginity test, ban virginity, ban hymenoplasty as well. And then Polygamy Matters, which is really important. Step Up Migrant Women is a coalition, more than 50 organizations in Pan-London that we are working together to support migrant women, to change and demand amend the domestic violence bill in order to support migrant women. And also we have LGBTQ plus matters campaign, because it's a very, very sensitive issue in our community. We really wanted to help our young generation. Could you please go to next? Yeah, but actually, in ban virginity test is quite popular. It's very quickly starting in the community. We started 2 years ago in this campaign, but the other organization shows interest, the government shows interest. We are aware that in France, they changed the law for ban virginity certificate, and now the government is interested after the work we all have done that to ban virginity test. You might be very surprised that I tell you that this happening in the UK, up to £300 each girls or their family must pay for the testing the virginity. And then for hymen repair surgery, which some of the girls are doing that because they are worried about their virginity, or maybe they had some relationship before marriage. So it's up to £4,000 they will pay for the underground clinics, private clinics, which is very, very dangerous journey, very, very traumatic. And bring it a lot of anxiety for those young girls. And many of them, if they don't require such a virginity in the community in the night of wedding, we have cases that have been killed, that have been abandoned from the family, from the community, that have been beaten, that have been sent to family again. And it's so traumatic. And as you know, I'm sure that you know that World Health Organization as well say that this is a violation of human rights and it should be banned. So therefore, suddenly even government find out that this is important. Women organizations are just giving the cases of those women have been subjected for such an issue, and that's huge in certain communities. So therefore we needed to do something. Yesterday we were in a round table with MPs, Lord of House of Commons, and Home Office as well, member of them, 3 organizations with some lawyers. We were determined to encourage the government as they are speeding up for ban virginity tests. It's really important that they should ban hymenoplasty surgery, which they are going to divide it, which is totally wrong, which is totally dangerous. My worry that I expressed in the meeting say that if you don't ban hymenoplasty, it will be another problem, because we girls, without knowing whether they are virgin or not, they are going and rushing, going to the underground, paying so much money, painful journey, just fixing, stick up, without knowing really if they are virgin or not. So therefore, both of them should be banned. Hopefully, they in the meeting, they looks like they are happy with our argument, and then they found us very like a strong alliance, 3 organizations and all lawyers. So we are hoping that it will be banned, both of them. If you go to the second page, so when it will be banning, so it will be a law and legislation. Could you, yes, and then, but this is not enough by the law. So what is important is the education. Education in the community is crucial, it's so important. You can't just victimize all the parents and say that you will be fine if you are doing that, but you must educate them and educating young generation as well. Because just in this week, I meet a client who have done virginity test, and I asked her to tell about the story. So she talk and talk and talk. And the painful part for me was that when she was talking about this process, she didn't know that she was a victim of virginity fraud. She really believed in virginity. And then even so that's a huge in our community. We all know that more than 40% of women have not bleeding in the night of the first experience of sexual life. So by the definition of those community, they are not virgin. But this virginity is just fraud, it's just a myth, and then it not reflect to everyone by bleeding. So therefore, and prevention is really important. Those young girls who are in dangerous situation like that, having relationship before marriage, or they don't want to go for hymen repair, so they will be in danger by the family, by the community. So we need support for those women. So we all discuss it in the meeting. Hopefully we are waiting for end of July that they are announcing the process of being the law and the process of how they can help us. But I'm going to tell you about the second one very quickly.
We're over time. Can you give us a really quick, I know you wanted to talk about this polygamy campaign as well.
I'm so sorry about that. I wanted just to compare it.
No, there's so much to say, so many brilliant things to say.
Yes.
If you could.
Well, actually, yeah. I don't know if you are aware about that. More than 20,000 women in UK are on a polygamy living polygamy relationship. And we have a big project with Greenwich University to help 100 women to be independent, to be strong, to be empowered, to choose for their life they wanted, and then to work on the community to change this attitude as well. So I wanted to say that this polygamy matters, starting with Rosa Foundation, who supported us. Now the funders are interested, and all happening under the COVID-19, because it's too much in those families that is happening. The good thing is that in both campaigns that we started, there is a lot energy, there is a lot passion among the women, among the pioneer women in the community. And hopefully for the first campaign as well, we needed more alliance. And the second campaign as well, we needed more people to help us. It's really important that if anybody is interested to changing such an attitude in our community, please contact me. I would be happy. I'm sure that each of you, if you think about such an issue, will be helpful in this process. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Halali. Thank you very much. Can I now come to Emma Campbell from Lions for Choice, please? Can you tell us a bit about your campaigning experience? Thanks, Emma.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good. I'm just going to present here. So for those of you who don't know, up until October 2019, Northern Ireland essentially banned most forms of abortion. And so over 1,000 women and pregnant people a year traveled to England to access services there, which they also had to pay for privately, despite us paying into the NHS. And around the same number of people would order the safe but illegal pills online, and a number of people had been prosecuted and gone to court for accessing those pills. So there's only 5 minutes, so I don't want to go into like some big long legal explanation, but essentially we should have had the access and the right to an abortion in Northern Ireland from the regulations came in at the end of April 2020, which, as we all know, was also the same time that COVID really blasted off in Ireland and the United Kingdom. So we don't just address the legal framework, but we also address the stigma around abortion. I know there's an awful lot of people here from organisations that support mothers and parents, and 61% of people who access abortions are already the parent of at least one child. So we very much view this as something where people are making a responsible decision about whether or not they can be parents at the time. We really have pushed for this, that it needs to be legal to be safe. What happened when COVID started was that the Northern Ireland office were on Twitter telling women and pregnant people in Northern Ireland that they could travel to England. It's totally fine, we'll pay for your services when you get to England, in the height of the pandemic. So they were still telling people that they had to travel, and what was happening very often was people were booking flights and the flights being cancelled the day before their appointment. And what ended up as the only way to access an abortion for people in Northern Ireland at the start of COVID was an 8-hour each way freight ferry, where they were travelling in lorry cabins, and essentially, because of the way the pills work, miscarrying on the way home on that freight ferry, which is obviously completely disgraceful. On the other hand, COVID meant it kind of gave us an opportunity. So previously, when people were accessing the pills online, they were at risk of life imprisonment, and as I said, people had been arrested for that before, and people in Alliance for Choice had their homes and studios raided and posts intercepted and so forth by the police. Just a little summary here of I say differences, they're really convergent. So the views on abortion across the 3 different jurisdictions is more or less in alignment. But when the regulations fell, or when the regulations were laid, suddenly it was no longer illegal to access the pills online. So the online providers aren't statutory providers in the UK and Ireland, they're actually an NGO based in the Netherlands. But you go through an online consultation with a doctor, and then the doctor sends you the pills on prescription. So what we ended up becoming, in a much more extreme way than we ever were before, we did this work before, but much more spread out and ad hoc, was we ended up becoming people's abortion doulas. So we would direct people to these sites, we would get them to take the pills, we would train community activists and our own members on the medicines, how to use the medicines, the safety of them, when people might be in danger, what symptoms to look out for, and so forth. And I'm sure, like most of the rest of the UK and Ireland, our sex education in schools is pretty appalling. So the idea that anybody would have been touching on abortion pills and what they do in school education was laughable. But even in a community framework, they're really not talked about, even in contexts where it's completely legal, like the UK. So we really felt that we knew that the majority of people supported the right to choose, but do they know the ins and outs and the safety, and do they know, if their friend comes to them, or a sister or a daughter or a partner, do they know what to do when they're ordering the pills? So the decrim means Northern Ireland currently has the best law in...
You've got about 30 seconds left.
Okay.
Sorry.
The best law in all of Europe, but the access, because of the DUP, who've been blocking and won't commission anything, means, hang on, we're on the last slide, that there's still a huge problem with access. There's a problem with clinics who are pretending they're abortion clinics and not abortion clinics, and getting people through their doors and purposely delaying treatment. And so when we talk a bit later in the Q&A, I'll talk about how, if you want, you can support our actions in Northern Ireland.
Thank you for being concise at the end there as well. That was really interesting. So next, can I come to Janet Veach, please, from the Women's Budget Group?
Thank you very much for setting this up. It's a great opportunity for hearing what everyone is doing. You said at the beginning, Jolie, that I'm here for the Women's Budget Group, but I might, if I get a 30 seconds at the end, also talk about the Happy Baby community, which I'm also involved with, which provides drop-in centres for refugee and asylum-seeking mothers in London. So this is all about how we create change. And the Women's Budget Group is a little bit different from a lot of organizations in the women's movement, because what we're trying to do is look at the economics of all this. And I wanted to look at a particular example where this has been done over like a 20-year period more, which is violence against women and girls, and thinking about what the economic case is for investing in ending violence. And obviously we would do this anyway, even if there weren't an economic case. But often in the women's movement, we're doing work which is based on values and saying this is what the government must do. And they ought to do it for moral reasons, and that's absolutely true. One of the things we try and do is build the case for investing so that government sees that they will in fact save money down the line by ending violence. And we do this for everything. We're trying to think of what the economic impact of their policies is. One of the things government, I would say, often does is treats economics and the economy as a gender-free zone, where they just don't have to think about this because we're often not in that space. What the Women's Budget Group does, which I think is one of the most valuable things, is brings together feminist economists and activists into the same space so that we can share the research that's going on and we can see what the economic impact of women's inequality is. And just taking the example of violence against women and girls, probably 20 years ago now, one of our members, Sylvia Walby, was commissioned to start costing violence, to see how much it costs us as a country, the cost to individual women, the cost to the state as well. You know, how much does the criminal justice system cost? How much is it to rehouse women? How much does it cost to run refuges and rape crisis centres? And she started putting all these costs together, the cost to the health service, the costs of, you know, when you can't go to work, when you're sick, when you're going to the hospital, what's the lost income look like? And she added it all up, and her initial figure was about 23 billion a year, which is a lot of money, even in government terms. And as a result, we were able to go to the government and say, this is what it's costing you. So if you were to invest instead in prevention work and in protecting women, this is the money you would be able to save theoretically. So it's making the economic case to support all the other campaigning work that everyone is doing. And that's essentially what we try and do. So we try and work in partnership with women's organizations. So for example, we've done a lot of work with Runnymede, where we've looked at the cost of an austerity program and particularly looked at the intersectional impact. So what we've done is an analysis of who suffers and who pays out most, what the impact is on women from different ethnicities and in different types of households. And we were able to demonstrate that over the 10 years that we've had austerity programs, you know, where you cut taxes, but you also cut public services, that the people who pay for that are the women in the most disadvantaged communities and the most disadvantaged areas. So minoritized women and particularly single parent women, were the ones who were paying most because they lost the most in public services and in cuts to benefits, cuts to universal credit.
Just on time, you've got about 30-40 seconds left, and I know you wanted to talk about the Happy Baby community.
Oh, yes, I did. So Happy Baby community, one of the things that we've found over COVID is that putting all our services online, so we didn't have drop-in centres anymore, obviously, actually in some ways was a benefit to creating the change that we want, which is empowering women to run the organisation themselves. So it's a by and for organisation, but also economic empowerment. And what we now do is we give women the connectivity. So they've got mobile phones, and that gives them a lot of advantages. They're not only able to join our online meetings because we've given them that connectivity, but they're also able to connect in other ways. You can imagine doing without a mobile phone, especially when you're in a strange country, you might have only just arrived. This is really important for them, but we find it really difficult to get funders to see the importance of that and to fund it. But an economic autonomy, as we all know, is deeply connected to your vulnerability to violence, to maybe being re-trafficked, as a lot of these women have already experienced trafficking. Yes, I could go on.
Yeah,
but maybe we will in the questions discussion.
Yeah,
Thank
you for everybody. I'm delighted to introduce Molyn Delve now from Phoebe. Over to you, Molyn.
Thank you very much. I'll just put my timer on, sorry. Yeah. Thank you. My name is Molyn Delve. I'm founder of Phoebe, an Ipswich registered charity in Suffolk, specialist organization. We support Black and minoritized women and girls struggling and fleeing domestic violence. And we've been in operation since 2008. So we've been around for quite a while. And so when I was asked to be part of the conference, I was looking at the topic, how women's organizations are creating change. So I put that into the context how Black women's organizations are creating change in Britain. I wanted my whole talk, I think, because of the time limit, I know, I might have to cut this short at some point, but I would like to have the listeners focus on the intersecting difficulties that women face. I want us to focus on intersectionality, the meaning of it within the lives of Black and minoritized women and girls that we work with. Because that's the whole essence of our work and the whole essence of the campaign, the work that we're trying to do, within Suffolk, and also obviously as a contribution to the whole movement, in the country. So we really feel that as an organization, we want to bring up, how the intersecting difficulties, the historical disadvantages that women have faced and have experienced, continuing to follow them in their lives, in their everyday lives. So that's basically what our organization stands for at this present moment, and all services that we are bringing to them. That's what we hope to sort of, give others who may not have come across, migrant women who have been trafficked into the UK and may not know or understand the experiences that these women actually are facing. So sometimes it's very difficult for people, for everybody to understand this. So I just quickly, thought, well, how are Black women's organizations, creating change, contributing to change, and as a result, focusing on Phoebe. Phoebe stands for Promotion of Health, Opportunity, Equality, Benevolence, and Empowerment of Black and minoritized women. That's the acronym that we sort of work towards. And so just wanted to say that, to say that our services, I'll just list our services and then try and again put them into the context of this is what we're trying to challenge and to support women in. So we have recently, since COVID, been funded to support Black and minoritized women and mothers and babies. So I think we all know that Black mothers and babies are at risk and higher risk, of actual death during pregnancy, and they're disadvantaged. And so we have a support group now where we're sort of working directly with NHS and the perinatal, teams, so that they can understand where these women are coming from, the differences that they bring, and the needs that they have, which are different from other women and from the white women and the other women. So we are working with that team. Our main work has been in domestic violence, domestic abuse of migrant women, and I will say again, our work has been led and shaped by South of Black Sisters, IMCAN, Rights of Women. So those are the women who have really supported us to shape and understand the systems, and we've moved forward with them. And so our work, again, we are looking at helping professionals, social workers, nurses, doctors, psychiatrists, to understand that when a woman comes and she has fled violence and she has insecure immigration status, there are lots of layers and hoops that she has to jump, and just trying to understand her and the needs that she brings. And for example, many women do not report to the police. From her own country, many of the countries that the women come from, they will not report to the police. They will not be listened to. I think Sonia has mentioned the fact that it's a patriarchal system globally. And so especially from countries like ourselves, where really, there's just impunity. There's no, support and help. And if a woman is attacked, sometimes she's actually not supported at all by the police or the systems. So she won't have trust in the authorities. And so understanding that mainstream organizations can understand why it is that she may not be able to report to the police. And so we're also working, we know that language is a huge barrier, obviously, for these women to seek support and to be offered support. And so we offer language classes for the women. We offer girl self-esteem, preventative work, girl self-esteem in schools, sexual violence awareness. And a huge part of our work during COVID has been welfare support, giving and helping women to access just basic food banks and getting the basic sort of local authority welfare schemes, benefiting from those. Women have been afraid to sort of go forward. And so because of the existing, intersecting difficulties that our women face and that are not always understood, women will just, fall away and fall out of the system and will not receive support and will be invisible. And so we're trying to help those who support and help and hold the purse, to speak, to understand that our women bring with them a lot of difficulties, a lot of discriminative sort of practices which they have experienced, racism, the religions that they belong to sometimes will bring them down and will hold them down. So that's what we want our work to focus on, moving forward, really bringing out, those hidden difficulties that people do not understand and that our women are facing at this time. It says 7 minutes on my watch. I think I can carry on. I haven't been stopped.
I'm listening to you myself, so I thought everybody else would absolutely feel the same. But yeah, we are going to have to stop because we're eating into the comfort break. So if you want to let everybody know what time we should be back, are we still going to have a comfort break, or?
I think so. We've got time for it. So if that's what you'd prefer, then we should do that. Yeah.
Okay, so if everybody comes back in 5 minutes, goes and gets a cup of tea, has a wee, all of that stuff, and we'll come back with question and answers. If you could put your question in the question and answer box as well, have a think over the next 5 minutes what you'd like to ask our eminent panel. Thank you.
People ready to start again in 1 minute?
Yes.
Just wait for Molin.
We've so far had 3 questions in the Q&A box. If anybody else wants to ask some questions, do put it into the box, and if we have time, we will answer them.
3 very good questions, though. So I will kick things off if everybody's ready to go. We're just waiting for Emma, actually, aren't we? Great, there we go. So first question is to Sonia. As I know, Hull councillors are Labour and should therefore have helped Hull sisters with their problems. Could you tell us, Sonia, what Labour have done for Hull sisters so far?
Oh, it's very sad to say that none of the Labour councillor has done anything for us. We had few video conferences with MP Diana Johnson, who also sent an email to the council and asked for migrant women funding. And the council sent a letter saying that they don't have any strategy for BAME women or BAME strategy. And still, they didn't give us building. And then actually we approached to Labour councillors, but none of them, they just help in any way or any shape, nobody. In fact, during pandemic time, one of our national news, it came in from Hull Daily Mail into Daily Mirror and Daily Mail. She was a wonderful woman, a UN refugee from Syria. And she was living in a damp accommodation where she had 12 different types of illnesses, including kidney infection, liver infection, hernia, rheumatism, asthma. And she was living in a very, very extreme damp house. And then when her story went viral, people posted racist comments, as we all know that any BAME story come, you just receive racist comments. All people posted the comment that she should go back to own country if she's not happy in Hull. So we were, that time our campaign was against racism and discrimination because we've been evicted, and we still, on campaign. So one of the councillors, she posted on her Facebook that we are the one who are inciting newspaper and triggering racism. Other councillor also supported, and in support, they posted comments. And that has given a very, 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 very insensitive message to BAME women that BAME women are all alone in there and they should not raise their voice for anything, if they face. So hearing that, some of the community organization, mostly council like benefited from the council, they also put some comments on our Facebook and blame the victim rather than supporting her and the miseries she's going through. But no, nothing happened. And it was just all victim blaming and us and all this. Now we don't know what will happen. Council promised that they will do BAME women strategy and funding allocation and things like that. We don't know when will happen, but or we are still, campaigning. And this is the sad bit that nobody helped.
We've got photographs on the screen of the work that you've been doing at Hull Sisters during the pandemic. Do you want to say anything about the photos?
This is my kitchen. It's all full of all stuff. So my bedroom and also the reception rooms, all of them, they are just full of this. I don't have any space, just a bed somewhere. And all of this stuff just waiting if, a miracle happen and we get a center and all these 485 women and girls would move there with all this stuff. So at the moment, my house is working as a center for all these women.
You're doing incredible work, Sonia.
Thank you.
You can find Hull Sisters on Twitter. Somebody's added as well to the chat at Hull Sisters, and on Facebook as well, I think. Halale, a question for you. You spoke of advocating for law and policy changes to support your cause. Where did you learn those skills, and who are your allies in government? It's a great question. Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, well, my background is social work as a professional, and I'm starting working with the women, vulnerable women in the community. So I am a community leader, and I'm a practice leader. Not the one that I have done either with Rosa Foundation, amazing fellowship leadership program, which I managed it, and it was wonderful. I've learned new skills about that. But to be honest, in the community, I'm famous because I'm not scared, and I'm always talking about my passion, about my opinion, and I'm looking after my women and girls in the community, whether other alliance, other group in the community may not agree with me. And I always open the space for negotiation together, working together. Regarding this issue, when we were there, our alliance was Karma Nirvana from Asian communities, that they have a huge, the same issue like our Middle Eastern and North African group. And then ICRO in London. We were 3 organizations and Dr. Charlotte and the 2 lawyers from those organizations. So all were professional and working in the community. And then that was enough for the government to hear from such an amazing group that they are working in the community. And then we have stories, we have evidence, we are connected with the community. And if they wanted to change it, anything in the community by the law, so they need us because we are bridges between community and the government. And we already are engaged there. Yes.
How have you, which MPs have you gone through? Which one?
Richard Holden is an independent MP that bringing the bill to the government, to the House of Commons. And he is liaising with all the organization that we are working together. So the last month we had a big conference, actually starting from that. It was a huge conference. Some of you might be in the conference because we were focused on the virginity test. We invited from French side as well to learn from their experiences. We invited House of Commons members, Richard, as well as Nimco Ali, who is related to the FGM and women organization, Karma, ICRO, and we bring it witnesses that we're talking about themselves. And you can't believe it, that witnesses from all the generation as well, talking about their experiences, the painful experiences. And the reflection of this conference was huge. Still, I could see that in yesterday when we had a meeting, they just related the discussion in the conference again and again when we were talking about the education for the community, when we were talking about that we needed support from the government when we starting with this law. We discussed it in the last part, how we are going to work with the challenges in the community, because the law is coming, people doesn't understand it, those people who we really are, we needed to help them. And then who will help those people to understand such a thing? Otherwise, the reaction will be very quite dramatic because they think that they have been victimized, and then the government, they starting to react. And then there is some attitude in the community, whether by religious leaders, whether by those people who always produce the customs from their background in the community. They don't like this such changes, and then we are against their law. Somehow we are against their the religion some part of them. And by the way, it's happening a lot in Muslims community, but we would like to say that this is for all communities, because somehow it happened in other communities as well. So those challenge, we needed to be strong alliance with the support from the government, with the support from everyone as well.
Thank you, Halali. Lots of questions coming through now. Helen would like to say thank you to everybody for their contributions. A bit like speed dating, as I'm sure you all have so much more you could share. The work that all of you are doing is vital. She's interested in the financial cost of what we do and how much we contribute to society that is not valued. The cost of childcare, the amount of unpaid elder care, and the loss of income through abuse. Really, women are not valued in society. We're totally taken for granted. So the question is about, so much energy is spent fighting for our rights and fighting to dispel the myths about virginity, rape, and shocking about polygamy. Governments are not about creating a fair and equal society, and so much of their energy is about ticking a box. So getting a financial figure on the work women do is valuable, and we also need to contribute networking and sharing of our campaigns. How important are men in our campaigning, and how do we or should we engage with them? I'm going to come to Emma for this question, see what your thoughts are about engaging men in the work that you do.
Well, firstly, I would say that we're inclusive in terms of we would also be fighting for the reproductive rights of trans men and non-binary people. So first of all. Second of all, quite often men are in the families that are directly impacted by a restriction on abortion or a lack of the full spectrum of care in pregnancy. However, we want to foreground the people who've had direct experience, and we, especially Northern Ireland, even more so than in Great Britain, our political landscape is dominated by men, and there are one or two parties that do quite well here. Sinn Féin and the Green Party and Alliance are good for women and other genders apart from cis men who represent in the parties, but the likes of the DUP and other unionist parties are really atrocious, and so absolutely then embedded in the political system is a complete misunderstanding of the needs and wants of women and our families. Our childcare is the most expensive outside London, and we don't have the 30 hours free that exists in the rest of GB. We are still, I guess, languaging under some fundamentalist evangelical and fundamentalist Catholic ideals in certain quarters of the community, and that, that demonstrates itself in are really high figures for domestic violence, and we have the dubious honour of being joint first along with Romania for intimate partner murder in Europe. We have the highest use of weapons and domestic violence in Europe and so forth as a result of the conflict. So we do include men as allies, and we include them as people that will support us, but we do not give men the space to lead on any of the decisions or any of the forming of what we're asking for. The majority, not all, but the majority of decision makers, so councillors, MPs, MLAs, legal drafters that we work with are women. But we don't actively exclude men, but they are never going to be part of our own internal decision making or campaigning processes. However, there are spaces where allies and men who support us can be a useful voice, like in our pro-choice and faith project, or maybe in the higher echelons of the health service, just because there are so few women in the upper strata of lots of our institutions. So what we need isn't always reflected. We did do a video that was about how men can be allies, and there was an interview, talking heads of lots of different men talking about why they support a woman's right to choose. But one of the questions we get asked a lot by, you know, the usual devil's advocate is, what about the man being able to make a decision about the pregnancy or ending the pregnancy? And our response is always, in an ideal situation, someone will be in an equal partnership with their male partner, and they would talk about it and come to the decision together. But it completely ignores non-consent. It completely ignores pregnancy as a result of rape or sexual violence. It completely ignores, interpersonal abuse. It completely ignores religious doctrine or people's beliefs where the man is the head of the family, etc. So I think until we're at a point where we know that we are definitely equal and will always be equal in any decision-making process, then we cannot give men any part in that decision.
Very much. Halali, could I ask you the same question?
For what about?
What role do you think men could play in your campaign?
Oh yeah, about that. I was interested to actually answer. Yes, it's really, really important. Although in our community, it will be more challenging because the structures of our community is so much man-dominated. It has been supported by the customs, by some religion, by religion definitely, and those cultures that there is. And then those value who is in the wider society, it doesn't exist in certain community, in our community, unfortunately. And you can't believe it if I tell you that sometimes I feel it when I'm dealing with the cases of divorce, and I must contact, mosque or about it, because there is a lot nikah marriage, unregistered marriage. You can't believe it, that how much is challenging deal with the Sharia law, for example. And I feel it that I live in a society that there is two tier of government or ruling the communities, because one is the Sharia law running, for example, in the community. It's most related to the religion and man structured, and women has no right in such a situation. The struggle is very, very crucial, and we feel very frustrated sometimes with working with such an issue. And then one is the British law that we must try all the time, that to connect and discuss it with the family, with the mother, with the woman who is in trouble, to helping women to be led by the British law rather than Islamic law, especially when it's coming to custody of children, heritage, divorce, separation, and then especially in the polygamous relationship, you can't triple size. I say 20,000 women are registered, but triple size of that is unregistered. How? They are going to mosque for nikah marriage, and then when they are in trouble, like a domestic violence, like a neglect, like a financial neglect, and they are coming for help, the social services doesn't understand the connection of that. The police doesn't understand that. We understand that. And then we are involved in such a situation. And when they are going back to the divorce, if it will be by Sharia law, so the woman lose everything. Right now, I'm working with a case of women crying every day, calling me that, can you come to, for example, we are planning to do that. As soon as possible. It's 3 years I'm struggling with my husband to give me divorce. He doesn't give me Islamic divorce. It happening right in London, not in Saudi Arabia, not in Iran that I came from. And then because when she goes to mosque, say that if your husband doesn't give you divorce, so you have no right to ask for that. This is the two-tier law in this country, unfortunately. So therefore, our alliance as a man is really, really crucial for us. And we rely on young generation who have been educated at school, out the community, at school, about the value of human being, about the value of equality for women and girls. And then maybe this generation will help us. Otherwise, the older generation have been brainwashed, have been doctrinated, many of them. I'm not saying that all of them, but it's a quite sensitive and big problem for us. But of course, like any part of the society, we can't just rely on a women's power. We needed both sides for change. Yes.
Lovely, thank you, Halali. Unless anybody else has something they really want to say on that topic, I'm going to move on to a question for Janet. Is anybody? Sonia, Molin? No, okay. Janet, a question from Avril for the Women's Budget Group. What are the top 3 to 5 issues that you're currently working on?
Okay. So in the last couple of years, we've run a commission on a gender equal economy, where we brought a lot of experts and women's organizations together to look at what a gender equal economy would actually mean. And we went all over, you know, the UK, talking to women in Northern Ireland, in Wales, Scotland, and England. And the big message was the care economy, which I think a number of people have raised today, the importance of the unpaid caring work that women do, and how the whole economy really relies on that, and how that can be recognized. So that's a big piece of work. You'll find much more about that on our website if you're interested in it. And then the second thing, which is a bit more relevant to what we're talking about today, is a thing called the Local Data Project. And that is a project that's designed to support local women's organizations to access information, data about women's inequality in their particular area. So we've created a web page that shows you all the local data, and we're running free workshops. This is a bit of an advert. Free workshops on how to access that data, how to use it to build your case. So, for example, if we think about the some of the campaigns we've heard about today, maybe the Hull campaign, if you look at our website, you'll be able to see information that you could use, which would help build your case for the local authority investing in the work that you're doing. So those are kind of 2 things. And can I take advantage of just for 30 seconds to address the question that Effie put about what is the government, are local authorities and central government taking this into account when they're funding us? You know, the knowledge that we're all doing this work for nothing. I think this was the next question down, maybe on the Q&A.
Yeah.
And I want to say, yes, exactly. That's exactly what's happening. All the multinationals are bidding for contracts to deliver services for women and taking that away from women's organizations, particularly minoritized women's organizations. And I would really love to see Rosa bringing all our voices together and creating a campaign around this. That's all. Sorry to hijack that question.
Don't be sorry at all. That was a great point. Thank you very much. Can I come to Molin now? Question from Annie Gibbs, who wants to know how we, as listening to you, can go about better advocating for Black women who experience domestic abuse.
Can I just add, I think it's particularly care experienced. I think it's care, Black women who have got experience of the care system seems to be the question.
Okay, the care system. All right, thank you. Black women who have experience being in the care system. All right, it's helpful that I'm a social worker as well by training. Amazing. Yeah, I think Black women who've experienced the care system might have had an adverse experience, as you can imagine. It's sometimes very difficult. I think I can remember a case I had, some Black girls who were put into foster care, and luckily for them, they had grandparents. Their mother was a sex worker, so they're lucky for them. They had grandparents who could understand, who were willing to help and support and look after them. But these girls, social workers, then I wasn't their social worker, but I was supporting other social workers. They didn't understand the cultural sort of makeup of the family, and they wouldn't place these children with their grandparents. And so I was able to intervene and actually encourage the other social worker to place these girls with their grandfather. So you'd find that I think Black women who've experienced the care system, and if they're now adults, I think really just being willing and able to seek that therapeutic support, in peer support. I think the most powerful way of really getting over and getting through that experience, if it was not positive, is engaging in a program where you can have peer support, people who've lived the experience that you've lived, and who can help you, walk with you, talk through those experiences that are similar but different, and be able to support each other through life. Using the sort of therapeutic systems, not in the sort of strictest sense, but real life working together. I feel, and I've noticed that that really can help women, sort of peer-to-peer support, and just being able to engage with more positive services. Even volunteering can really help and empower you. Sometimes the care system can really strip you of independence. You're dependent on the social media, you're dependent on placements that, you have varied placements within your lifespan, sometimes 20, so it's a really difficult space depending on your experience. And I feel being able to sort of grab back your life and engage with services, other women's services, where you can get peer support, where you can engage in positive therapeutic activities, where you can give back to others, and that can build you as a human being and as a woman, and can empower you to help others as well. I feel that can be a starting point. And I know that also they need to be very patient. I think having been to a system which really stripped you of your confidence, sometimes you'll need many more years of building up your confidence, building up your self-esteem. So being patient with yourself, that might be something that could work. And also understand that people are different, individuals are different. And so just getting a good therapist, getting somebody who's able to sort of support you, and also using non-conventional sort of ways of coping. For example, if you have faith, take that on, and use that and build your strength on that. So family, if you still have family who you can rebuild relationships with, those you can. So not sort of really cheap and cheerful ways of getting back onto your feet. Thank you.
Thanks, Maya. Sonia, a question from an anonymous attendee. Who is supporting you with all of this? You're obviously taking on a lot with what you're doing with Whole Sisters. Who is supporting you, and who is supporting you from an organisation? But I guess the question is larger than that as well. How do you not burn yourself out? Who is supporting you?
Okay. We were completely alone. It was the time. Nobody was supporting us except Black and minority organization in Hull. It was Rosa and Women Equality Party who always supported us till today. And Small Wood Trust, they also supported us. But in our campaign, we have now made good links with national and local organizations and persuade them, just to support us. But overall, nobody in Hull, no white organization have supported us. In fact, white women organization, they even didn't bother to ask why we have been displaced and why the media are publishing stories almost every second day about us. So nobody came to support us. That is very, very upsetting. I feel Black and minoritized women issues are not white women issues. we are different and our issues are different, and they don't think that it's their issue. They think it, like, they don't think that it's their issue. They think it's your issues, you deal with it. So yeah, the support was very, very minimal, and especially at Hull level. Just the Black and minoritized organization, they all come together and they made a report to Hull City Council about racism and discrimination they are facing from the council in the services. But that has been refused as well. That give us the evidence of racism, they didn't accept it. Although the evidences were there, the case studies of the organization were there, but no, nothing happened. We just like found support from national level organization who are more aware, and they just wanted to support. So yeah, in our campaign, we were quite alone, no support.
I'm sorry to hear that. Just a reminder, everybody, that Hull Sisters do have a crowdfunder if you'd like to contribute to the crowdfunder. Another question from somebody anonymous, and Halali, if you could take this one, please. Many here today are doing campaigning work within communities which can actively oppose women's equality, rights, and freedom to make choices about their lives. How can we most effectively campaign to change people's minds and create more supportive and understanding communities? Are you happy to take that question?
Yes, of course. Well, actually, one of the I don't say that maybe good things in the COVID pandemic period, we all learned and we had the opportunity to exercise it. It was solidarity and it was campaigning. So people shocked by the COVID-19, but the solidarity from people and the voice of people raised, because everybody was in their isolated cell, and then we still needed to communicate with each other. One of the things that increased dramatically and very good, it was campaigning. During the COVID-19, people starting, or organization or activists starting campaigning together, and the reaction from other people was very active, and we all are engaged. We are like a very, very connected all together. I would never, during 11 years that I am working with this organization, until this 1.5 years, be connected with so many networks, so many campaigns, and so many hours that I spend, or other people spend it with me, to helping through the campaigning. So the campaigning have been a model, a good model, to raising voices of the community, of the people, which is really, really good. And then for the communities, especially for those people who are most vulnerable, we are aware about that the status, government, they don't want to spend money of the changes of such a thing. They always wanted that get rid of some spending money. That's why in the recession cut benefit cuts starting. So it's the same with the community. When there is a problem, so it's the only voices that can remind the government that there is enough problem in the community and you must help, otherwise it will collapse. It's a women organization. It's us. It's on our shoulder. And how we can make noise about that? It's a campaigning. We make campaign. We make noise about that. We ask for alliance. We ask for people to come and join us when we are bigger, stronger voices. So of course we will be heard by the decision makers, by those people who can help in this change. But the law, the government, and the money is not enough for the changes in the community, because we are aware, as I say, that other bad side, other attitude, other customs who are very painful, harmful for women, children, for most vulnerable people like LGBT group, for refugee people who have no benefit at all. There is other harmful issue that affect those people, and it's just produced in the community. So therefore education as well is really important. Raising awareness is really important. And who will deliver that? It's a women organization. It's those people who are already connected. It's a pioneer women and pioneer people who community accept them as a member of themselves. And then they must show their role, and then they must start working with the community, and then we must make it, trying to find it, more people that is the same level like you, and then wanted to change it, and then liaise with the other part who doesn't want to change the situation, who might be reject your work or everything. So it's a long process, but it's happening. Remember that every change is starting from the bottom. You can't just change it by the law. You will fail if you just by law starting, but you don't have people behind you. These people must be educated, must be ready to accept it, then the law will work.
Brilliant, Halali, absolutely brilliant. We're really running out of time. We're almost at the end. So really quickly, if everyone could just say, and if you can be really concise, that would be amazing. Just one thing you wish you had known before you'd started campaigning that you know now. One message of something, if for somebody starting campaigning, what you'd like to pass on. Emma's nodding her head, so she's obviously thought of something. So I'm going to come to you first, Emma.
Politicians don't know anything more than you do. We all poo, so we all are starting from the same basis, and don't let them pretend that they do either.
Brilliant. Janet?
I think the thing that I've learned over the years is the importance of coming together to talk, particularly about issues that we find really divisive and difficult to talk about. And that's, in a way, the value, I would say, of second-tier organisations, particularly like Rosa, that you've got that convening power where you're bringing women together, and we can talk about anything, and we can develop solutions for anything as long as we're able to talk.
Great, brilliant, thank you. Marlon?
Something positive. I think there's hope when we speak to our primary school girls and boys, and we just ask them questions. They are so knowledgeable, and they are such powerful, advocates for positive change in society. So I feel there's hope, and that we should start at primary school, at reception school as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Sonia?
I feel our community is divided, and so the women are divided in black and white, because we are experiencing all these things. So based on my experience, I would say we need to have a very good network, like Janet said, and somebody like Rosa should bring us all together on one platform so that we understand each other miseries, understand each other problems, and support each other. And then we can influence our decision on all levels once we are together. If we are not together, we are divided, how can we influence? I feel white women have never understood our issues, and they never taken our issues as their issues. If they have taken, we would have been able to brought equality for all women long ago. That's my experience.
Thanks, Sonia. Halali?
Women's resilience is really, really important. It shows in the COVID-19. And don't underestimate this resilience. Women's power is really, really important in the change. So if we really wanted to change, our women must be ready, must come. Otherwise, nobody give their power and the right to them. You must take it, the right. So this is really important for me. The right is taken, not given to anyone, especially to women.
That is a great note to end on, I think. So thank you, everybody, for spending your sunny afternoon listening to this talk. I think it's been brilliant, so I'm sure everybody else does. I'll hand you over to Rebecca.
Oh, thank you so much, Jolie, and thank you to all the panelists. But that was brilliant chairing, Jolie. You really do bring such a brilliant energy to campaigning. And on that note, what would be the one thing that you would bring, Jolie, if you'd known at the beginning of campaigning?
Can't push the question back on me. I mean, collaboration. I have really learned that collaboration is absolutely critical to making change happen. So it would be all about collaborating really well with other organisations.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much. And on that note, I can remind you all that at 4 p.m, the networking sessions will open. So do join in, and you can find some fantastic women from around the country who are doing brilliant work that you can collaborate with, network with, and do some more campaigning with. So thank you so much for coming. And thank you, panelists. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming and listening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.